The wind begins softly. You might not hear it at first, only the faint stirring of hide and canvas, the gentle rustle of fur against fur. But as you let your breath slow and your body settle, it comes clearer, like a voice on the edge of memory. It's the wind of the steppe, patient and endless, carrying with it the hush of hooves and dust, and the distant scent of milk warmed over a fire. Now imagine yourself in a Mongol gur, a low, round yurt pressed into the belly of the land, its felt walls swaying faintly with the rhythm of early morning. The light hasn't quite lifted the shadows from the earth, and the air holds the memory of frost. Inside, it is warmer. A thick woolen robe weighs across your shoulders. The fire is little more than embers now, but a few blue-orange sparks still drift upward, trailing the scent of ash and boiled goat milk. You don't know where you are exactly. Not a village, not a city. Just a scatter of yurts, tucked beside a frozen stream, where night is always nearby, and dawn never rushes in. A woman crouches by the low stove, spooning tea leaves into a dented copper pot. The tea is thick with salt and butter, and begins to simmer with a gentle hiss. No one speaks yet. That's part of the morning here. The quiet is sacred. Outside, horses nicker and snort, stamping the crust of icy earth. Ropes creak, the dull thud of something wooden hitting packed ground. A boy's footsteps pad past the yurt, and then return, twice, then fade. Soon, the caravan will move. You are one among many, though you feel like no one at all. A servant to a merchant, a runner, a pair of arms, nothing more. Your name is rarely said aloud, but your hands are strong. You know how to lift, how to tie, how to mend cracked leather in cold that bites bone. You know how to follow, and how to keep walking, even when the wind turns cruel. The woman hands you a bowl of tea. Her fingers are rough. She does not look at you, and you do not expect her to. The tea tastes like melted smoke. Warm, dense, not exactly pleasant, but it softens the chest. The others drink too. One man adjusts his boots with a soft grunt. Another pulls a fox fur hat low across his brow. There is the soft clink of coins in a pouch, the slide of a belt being tightened. The caravan master hasn't spoken, but he doesn't need to. His presence is a weight in the room. The morning moves forward without words, as it always does. You step outside, breath curling from your lips, frost already whispering against your skin. The sky above is pale and wide, smeared with violet clouds. The world here has no walls, no edges, only distances, and in that space, the caravan waits. Wooden carts rest heavy on slanted wheels. Some are laden with cloth bundles tied with dyed twine. Reds, yellows, ochres. Others are heavier, covered with waxed leather sheets that glisten faintly in the low light. You know not to ask what's inside. One smells of cinnamon, another of musk and cured animal fat. 2 camels grunt in the far pen, still tethered and chewing slowly, their eyes half closed as if remembering warmer places. It takes time to prepare. Time and the quiet patience of cold fingers and worn habits. You begin by checking the undercarriage of the second cart, the one you always walk beside. Its axle is sound. The canvas beneath it, though, has loosened in the wind. You kneel, gently retying the edges with calloused hands. The knots come slowly this morning. Your thumb is still stiff from yesterday's frost. As you work, the caravan's rhythm emerges, a slow symphony of wood, breath, animal, and snow. Somewhere, someone sings under their breath. A tune with no clear melody, half lullaby, half prayer. It's not meant for anyone. It's meant for the wind. Behind you, a merchant argues softly with a younger man about the order of the loads. You don't turn. You know they'll rearrange the carts 3 times before deciding on the same configuration they always use. That's part of the morning too. Repetition is comfort here. Ritual is survival. You lift the edge of a fur-lined saddle, settle it gently over a bay horse's back, and cinch it. The horse breathes heavily, then snorts, its tail flicking once. Around you, others do the same. Each step mirrors the last. over and over. Time does not pass here. It rolls, like a wheel, over the same tracks again and again. Someone lights a second fire, not for heat but for coals, to be carried in a brass bowl beneath the lead merchant's cart. He believes it brings luck, or maybe just warmth to the cargo. No one questions it. The bowl always comes. The sun is slower than expected today, or perhaps the clouds are thick. Either way, light creeps up the world inch by inch. The wind has calmed, and that is good. The worst days are when it screams. The lead camel is loaded last. She's old, 20 years, perhaps more, and walks with a limp in her right leg. But she's wise. She knows the road better than any of you. When she moves, the rest follow, and now she moves. You glance back at the gyre one last time. Just a glance. The smoke has stopped. The tea bowl sits empty on a stone near the doorway. No one waves. That too is the custom. Departures should be clean, like the air. The carts groan, hooves scrape, ropes strain. The creak of leather and wood blends with the low murmur of human breath and distant bells. Someone has tied a charm to a pack mule's harness. You fall into your usual place, left side of the second cart, behind the boy with the braided sash. The road ahead is not a road at all, just a dented path in the snow, leading west. And so it begins again. One step, then another. The sky opening above you like a slow yawn. The land stretching without question. The caravan has begun to move. The cold doesn't retreat easily. It lingers around your ankles, seeps through your boots, and nips beneath the collar of your robe no matter how tightly it's fastened. But motion helps. The slow, deliberate movement of the caravan, one step, then another, brings a kind of warmth. Not the sharp, immediate heat of a fire, but something steadier, a rhythm, a returning. The animals know their roles. The camels sway with a practiced weariness, their long necks rising and falling like the tide. Horses pace alongside, breath visible, ears twitching to sounds only they understand. The wooden wheels creak over uneven ground, sometimes singing against frost, sometimes settling into softer soil, and beneath it all is the crunch of hooves and boots pressing into the crust of early snow. There are few voices, a murmur from one rider, a cough from a boy too thin for this cold. Otherwise, silence. Your hands feel the stiffness of the ropes as you adjust a strap on the nearest cart. The knot has shifted slightly, pulled too tight at one end, threatening to unravel. You fix it with quiet precision, fingers numb but practiced. These are the small tasks that fill your mornings, unseen, unremarked, but necessary. You tie, you retie, you check, you move. The caravan wends across a pale open plain. Nothing grows here in winter but brittle grass, its tips barely visible above the snow. Far in the distance, low hills roll like the backs of sleeping beasts. Occasionally, black stones jut from the whiteness, like forgotten teeth. There are no trees, no markers, only sky and ground, and the thread of movement in between. You remember the gur now, its warmth already faded from your skin. The morning tea, thick, salted, not quite pleasant, lingers faintly in your mouth. It was shared in silence, as always. No stories, no greetings. The older woman who made it did not smile, but neither did she frown. Her presence was practical, like wool, solid, unbending. She had made that tea for 30 years, perhaps more. You were just another in a long line to receive it. The thought comforts you somehow. One of the older merchants rides past on a short-legged pony, wrapped in layers of fur and cloth. His hat is made from wolfskin, the ears still intact. He nods slightly as he passes, a rare acknowledgement. You return the nod. That's enough. The first stretch of the day is always quietest. Everyone is adjusting, to the cold, to the rhythm, to the weight of motion. Later, there will be talk, quiet jokes, shared memories, songs so old that no one remembers the words, only the tune, but not now. The sun rises higher, though it barely warms. Its light is weak, filtered through a sky the color of damp linen, but it touches the world slowly, revealing details. You begin to see frost clinging to the lower beams of the carts. The edge of your sleeve, still damp from tying the knots, now crackles slightly with ice. You brush it off with a quiet breath. To your right, a young girl walks beside her father's mule, one hand resting on the animal's shoulder. Her other hand clutches a pouch. You think it contains dried apricots, or maybe salted meat. Her steps are careful but steady. She does not complain. Few do. Complaining would change nothing, and everyone knows that. The caravan master rides near the front, silent and upright. His long gray beard trails over a heavy sheepskin coat. His eyes are always scanning, not for danger, but for small changes. The way a shadow moves, the curve of a snowdrift, a sound that doesn't belong. He's guided these journeys for decades, and though he rarely speaks, his presence holds the caravan together like thread. Your breath begins to settle. Your muscles loosen. The morning has taken shape. The tea, the tasks, the walking, all blend into the steady pulse of the journey. You are not thinking anymore. You are simply moving. A dog runs ahead of the lead cart, small, wiry, with ears that twitch at every sound. It has no owner, not really, but it's been with the caravan longer than some of the people. It watches. It listens. Sometimes it disappears for days, only to return with a stolen bone or a rabbit's foot. Today it trots calmly, its paws kicking up soft sprays of frost. You glance up. Far above, in the pale morning sky, a hawk circles. You don't know what it's searching for, but you feel it watching. The cold bites less now. The wind has softened, and the carts creak on. Up ahead, the land begins to slope downward, a gentle dip toward a shallow basin. You know what comes next. A break, a fire, the next part of the day. But first, this walking, this breath, this quiet. A man behind you begins to hum, low, slow, a tune with no name. And still, you walk. The descent into the shallow basin is gradual but welcome. Your feet move a little easier now, the slope reducing the burden of each step. The snow here is thinner, patchier, revealing the rough brown earth beneath in long streaks. Small stones jut out, some smooth from centuries of wind, others sharp-edged and awkward underfoot. You walk more carefully, not out of fear, but from habit. Ankles matter on the road. One turn, one slip, and a journey could end in stillness. The caravan begins to slow, not all at once, but like a great creature drawing breath, carts pulling tighter, camels adjusting pace, riders leaning back slightly in their saddles. The lead merchant lifts one gloved hand, and the others respond. No whistles, no calls, just motion and mimicry, learned over time. You know what's next. The basin is wide, wind-sheltered, ringed with low hills that break the worst of the gusts. A few bent trees cling to life here, stunted, twisted, shaped by endless seasons. They offer no real shade, no fruit, but their presence is comforting, familiar. This place has been used before. You see old tracks in the dirt, a blackened circle of ash from a fire months gone. Even the air feels different, less hurried, more settled, as though the land itself expects your presence. The carts are unhitched, slowly, methodically. The camels kneel on command, groaning with their usual resistance. You watch as two older men work together to loosen a cargo wrap, a long, oil-treated cloth stretched across the backs of two beasts. Underneath it is weight, shape, scent, cotton, baled tight and bound with twine, each bundle wrapped in coarse sackcloth. Pale, dust-colored, but with a faint sheen when the light catches it just right. Imported from the south, grown in soil warmer than this, under suns that rarely yield. You help slide the first bale off the camel's back. It thuds softly onto the frozen ground, lighter than it looks, but awkward, shifting, weight, loose corners, a squeal of twine as the fibers twist under pressure. A few threads catch on your sleeve, and you pluck them free with chilled fingers. Then the next bale, and the next. Beside you, a younger boy works silently. His face is flushed from the cold, and his nose runs in a slow, unattended stream. But his hands move well, quick and firm. You nod toward him once. He doesn't see it. That's all right. The cotton is laid in careful stacks, each aligned with its partner, each shielded from the wind by the carts. You kneel beside them for a moment, adjusting the covers, tucking loose edges under rope. You feel a faint warmth from the bundles. Not heat exactly, but the absence of cold. The kind of stored breath that lingers in fabric. You pause longer than necessary, just long enough to feel it. Then comes the next cart. The cinnamon is different. The scent reaches you before the sight. Sweet, dry, earthy, not sharp, but constant, like warmth remembered rather than felt. The spice is packed in narrow reed baskets, wrapped with leather cords, and sealed with waxed cloth. You lift one carefully. It's heavier than expected, dense with layered sticks curled like scrolls. A small crack in the wrapping releases a richer note, and your nose fills with the idea of faraway kitchens, boiled teas, and honeyed bread you've never tasted. One merchant watches closely as the cinnamon is moved. He is short, squat, with hands that never stop twitching. He doesn't speak, but he counts under his breath. Each basket touched, each shifted. You nod toward him, not for permission, but for acknowledgement. He doesn't nod back, but you feel seen. A cart's axle creaks nearby, a sound like a groan, low and complaining. Someone tightens the brace with a long-handled wrench carved from bone. There's a small joke made, laughter low and brief. No one repeats it. The camels shift. They've been freed of their burden and now chew listlessly on grain from cloth bags tied near their mouths. Their eyes half close. Thick lashes, fluttering. A few stretch their necks out toward the fire pit being cleared nearby. The heat will come soon. You sit down beside the stacked goods, just for a moment. The earth is cold, but not cruel. Your knees ache. Your back complains. But you are still. And in that stillness, the sounds rise around you. Murmurs, the tap of tools, the lazy flapping of canvas. The fire begins to crackle, a low, comforting sound like old paper tearing. Smoke curls upward, thin, dark, beautiful. You breathe it in. Your fingers trace the edge of a cinnamon basket, and the scent deepens. For a second, your eyes drift closed. You are not asleep, but close. The kind of closeness that travel allows, between dreams and duties. Somewhere nearby, someone opens a leather pouch and pours out dried fruit. You hear the faint rustle, the chewing, the sharing. Hands pass food without words, and then withdraw. This is the morning. This is the road. This is the life between places. You think for a moment of what lies ahead. Hills, rivers, perhaps snow. But it is too distant to worry over. The day is only now. The scent of spice. The ache in your shoulders. The warmth of fire, barely begun. And all around you, the caravan breathes. The fire crackles with a steady, low rhythm. You sit beside it, legs crossed loosely, a bowl of barley porridge cupped in both hands. It's thick with milk and just a touch of salt, nothing more. It sticks to your ribs, as the old men say. Across from you, the girl with the pouch of dried apricots tears one into halves, offering a piece to her father. He takes it without a word. Everything here, even kindness, is quiet. The camels shift again. One lies down, moaning faintly, as another rises in protest to a strap being adjusted. Their long shadows stretch and shrink in the smoke-filtered light. The day is still young, but time moves differently in this part of the world. Not by the hour, but by the distance between stops, the changing shape of hills, the sound of the wind. You feel it in your body more than your thoughts, the rhythm, the pull. But for now, you remain by the fire. The hearth, if it can be called that, is nothing more than a pit lined with flat stones. A blackened kettle sits atop it, and a second pot, shallower, simmers with lentils and garlic. An old woman stirs it now, her movements mechanical, as though her arm remembers what her mind has long forgotten. She hums something, tuneless and slow. Her eyes stay half closed. You know she will not travel with you. She belongs to the land, to this temporary outpost, to the space between one journey and the next. Others begin to rise, slowly, not rushed. One by one, they stretch, stomp their boots, check their belts. The food is finished or left behind. The fire will be doused, and soon the ash will scatter into the breeze, as it always does. You glance toward your own pack, already tied and resting against the nearest cart. Everything you own is inside: a second tunic, a dull knife, 2 pairs of worn socks, a pouch of crushed pepper, and a bone carving given to you by a man you barely knew. Each item has been chosen, weighed, and kept for a reason. Even the pepper, especially the pepper. It is time to go. But first, one last glance. You rise and turn your gaze toward the hearth. The smoke curls upward, delicate as thread. The woman still stirs the lentils. The girl and her father have moved away, their place by the fire already forgotten by its warmth. A flat stone beside the pit bears the faint outline of a hand. Someone leaned there too often, perhaps, or once pressed their palm into the ash and left a print. You stare at it longer than necessary, knowing it will be gone by dusk. There is something in you that wants to stay, just a little longer. Not for comfort. Comfort is rare here, but for the quiet. The space between the next step and the last. The stillness. You take one final breath, letting the scent of smoke and boiled grain settle deep into your chest. You'll carry it with you, until it fades, as it always does. The fire is doused with snow. A soft hiss, steam rising. You move to the carts, fall into place again beside the boy with the braided sash. He carries a satchel of dried meat now, and he offers you a strip. You accept it without words. It tastes of salt and old wood. A merchant walks past, tying his gloves tighter. His robes are frayed at the hem, and he mutters something to himself. Perhaps a prayer, perhaps a reminder. Behind him, another trader lifts a goat onto the back of a cart, its legs tied gently but firmly. The animal doesn't struggle. It knows movement too. The caravan begins again, not suddenly, but like breath. The exhale after waiting. Wheels groan. Camels rise. Boots crunch. The wind returns, just a little stronger than before. You turn your head, just once, back toward the basin. The smoke is gone now. The old woman has vanished inside a yurt or into memory. The handprint is dust. The place where you sat no longer holds your shape. Forward. You begin to walk. The sun has climbed higher, though it remains pale, cautious. Clouds drift overhead like forgotten flags, and the land opens ahead, wide and uncertain. You do not know what lies beyond the next hill, but you will go there, because that is what this is. This life, this road, this caravan, movement without question, breath without answer, and step by slow step, you go on. The road, if one dares to call it that, has hardened under last week's melt. The ground crunches beneath your boots in brittle layers, frost over dirt, dust over ice. It isn't slippery, not yet, but each step sings a subtle warning. Hooves strike the surface with the hollow percussion of old drums. The sound echoes outward across the plain, then vanishes into the vast quiet of the steppe. It's a rhythm that accompanies you. Not loud, but constant. The hooves, the creaking carts, the faint jingle of brass buckles rubbing in time. Some in the caravan hum along with it. Others simply breathe into the sound, letting it settle into their bones. You do not think about walking anymore. You simply move, as though tethered invisibly to the ones ahead of you, and in turn tethering those behind. The air sharpens as you gain altitude. The wind, too, grows more curious, poking into the folds of your robe and raising goosebumps along the back of your neck. You adjust your scarf, pull the edge tighter. One of the camels huffs in irritation behind you, its long-lipped mouth smacking in rhythm with its heavy steps. You glance back briefly, just a glance, and return your gaze to the path. The sky above is impossibly large. No clouds for now, only a deep, clean blue that feels both close and impossibly far away. Sometimes, when you were younger, you imagined the heavens falling down like a great blanket, heavy and soft, to carry everything beneath it to sleep. That was before the caravans, before your name became a murmur, and your life, a quiet march between fires. Now you know better. The sky never falls, it only watches. Ahead, the path narrows between two shallow rises in the land, not mountains, just long, sweeping hills shaped by wind and time. You recognize this pass, not its name, you doubt it has one, but its shape, a memory in your feet more than your mind. The slope becomes steeper, and the hooves grow louder. The camels grunt. Their handlers speak to them gently in a mix of Mongol, Turkic, and something older, a language of touch and tone more than words. You place a hand against the cart beside you for balance. The wooden side is cold, smooth from wear. A small crack runs across its lower edge. You'll need to remember to seal it later with pitch, before snow finds its way in. The cart holds dried fruit and pressed bricks of tea. You know the scent that rises from it when warmed. Earthy, bitter, comforting. You've tasted it brewed with goat's milk beside fires in places no map names. Your thoughts begin to drift, not aimlessly, but like leaves following a stream. You recall a girl in Karakoram who sang while polishing saddles, her voice no louder than breath. You remember the time a fox followed the caravan for 3 days, always just far enough away to disappear when turned toward. You remember the warmth of your own mother's hand once, small, calloused, holding a rice cake wrapped in linen. These memories visit you like ghosts, and you welcome them without question. The caravan crests the slope and begins to descend. The pace slows, not from strain, but from caution. The frost here is thicker, clinging to shaded rocks and the crevices between. One cart slips slightly, just a few inches, and is steadied by 4 sets of hands, including your own. No one speaks. No one panics. This is just part of the road. Once at the bottom, the terrain opens again into a vast, shallow plain. Yellow grasses peek through snow, whispering in the breeze. A few lone trees rise from the earth like forgotten thoughts. Crows circle above one, but they do not cry out. Even the birds here are quiet. The hooves resume their rhythm, steady now, less strained. That tapping sound, that softened percussion of movement, fills your ears again. It is both a comfort and a reminder. Every step is earned, every mile is slow, and no place arrives before its time. The boy with the braided sash walks beside you still. He does not speak much, but he hums, a tune made of only 3 notes, repeated endlessly. You think he learned it from the older man with the wolfskin hat? Or perhaps it came from somewhere else entirely. Music moves like weather here, unclaimed, directionless, always arriving from somewhere unknown. You begin to hum with him, softly, not to join, but to echo. Your boots strike a patch of gravel hidden beneath snow. You adjust your balance. The cart beside you bumps slightly, then steadies. The merchant riding atop it looks down, says nothing, then returns to adjusting the waxed cloth over the load. The sound of hooves continues. You become aware of your heartbeat again, not because it's racing, but because it's in time. With the steps, with the sway, with the world around you. It is a small thing, but real. You are not apart from the caravan. You are inside it, of it, like a stone inside a river, shaped by its current. You pass a small cairn by the side of the path, a pile of stones, 5 high, with a thin strip of blue cloth tied around the top. An offering, a marker, a prayer. No one stops, no one adds to it, but every pair of eyes sees it, yours included. You breathe out, slow and steady. The frost, hardened earth, grows more forgiving now. The snow deepens slightly, muffling the sound of movement. The hooves become softer, the crunch less sharp, but you can still hear it beneath the surface. The rhythm of travel, the whisper of wheels and wind, the quiet beat of a life on the move. And still, the caravan goes on. The frost gives way to grass, not lush, not green, but dry and yellowed. the color of old parchment. It sways in soft clusters beneath the wind's careful hand, bowing and rising in slow, rolling movements. The snow hasn't fully left this place, but it lingers now only in low hollows and shaded pockets. The steppe is revealing its true face, wide, worn, and watching. The caravan moves through this quieter terrain with a kind of reverence. The hooves no longer strike with harsh rhythm. Instead, they press gently into earth that accepts them. The wheels creak less. The animals complain less. Even the wind, though still present, seems to hush its voice, as though something older waits just ahead. You've been here before. Not this exact stretch, perhaps, but somewhere like it. The land has that effect. It folds into itself, repeats its shapes, its scents. The hills rise just so. The grass bends just so. And suddenly, memory stirs, unbidden. It comes in stories. Not your own, but the ones passed between fires. This is a place where ghosts walk. Not the frightening kind, not loud or vengeful. These are quieter spirits. Steppe spirits. The kind who ride just beyond the edge of sight. Whose breath can be heard in the wind if you listen long enough. Whose shadows flicker beside yours when the sun leans low. The merchants say that if you see a rider on the horizon who never draws near, you should not speak their name, not even in your thoughts. They say that to acknowledge the rider is to invite them, and the steppe remembers all who trespass. You don't believe such things, but you don't disbelieve them either. Somewhere behind the caravan, an old man begins to speak softly. Not in conversation, but in storytelling. His voice carries only a little, like smoke. He speaks in Mongol, but the rhythm is familiar enough to understand the shape of the tale, even if the words are blurred. It is a story about a man who followed a fox into the grass, only to vanish for 3 days. When he returned, his hair had turned white, and he refused to speak again. Some say he had seen the ancestors. Others say he became one. No one interrupts him. The story is not for entertainment. It is for presence, for balance. The telling of it is part of the journey. As the old man's voice fades back into the breeze, you begin to feel it too. That subtle sense of being watched. Not dangerously, not even uncomfortably, but watched, all the same. The land has eyes, some say. A merchant riding near the middle of the caravan wears a blue charm around his neck, 2 pieces of carved horn, bound by red thread. He fingers it occasionally, lips moving silently. You wonder what prayer he repeats, or if it's not a prayer at all, but a name. Some in the caravan carry small talismans hidden in their sleeves or pouches. Bundles of dried herbs, braided grasses, tiny carved animals. You've seen them offered at cairns, left beneath trees, buried in ash. You carry none yourself. But sometimes, you wish you did. The grass thickens around you now. It rustles against your boots, dry and papery. One camel sneezes, shaking its head in protest, and a handful of birds rise from a nearby clump, sparrows, or something like them, startled but unconcerned. They scatter into the wind like thoughts and vanish. To your left, a narrow stone rises from the earth, not tall, but deliberate, weathered with age, a mark, perhaps a grave, perhaps a memory no longer held by living mouths. The boy with the braided sash walks beside it without glancing. But you do. You don't know why, but you do. A gust of wind passes through the caravan, not harsh, just enough to lift a strand of hair, to press fabric against skin, to remind you that air, too, carries stories. You think of your grandfather then, or the man who claimed to be your grandfather. You never asked for proof. He used to sit by the fire and speak of places like this. He said the grass remembers every footstep, that when the wind blows across the steppe, it's brushing away the dust of old empires, that each echo is just a memory trying to return home. You don't know if he was lying, but the steppe makes liars of no one. It only waits and watches. A hawk cries overhead, sharp and sudden. It's the only voice you've heard in an hour that breaks the rhythm. Every head turns, just for a moment, then continues. In the distance, you see a rider crest a low hill. They do not move toward you. They do not wave. They remain there, unmoving, like a statue carved from wind. Then they are gone. No one says a word. No one breaks stride. The caravan continues. And so do you. Grass, wind, footsteps, breath. Somewhere far behind, the old man begins another story. And up ahead, the earth begins to rise again. The sun has climbed as far as it will today. Not high, never high this time of year, but enough to cast long shadows that stretch behind the caravan like ribbons of memory. The grass around you begins to thin again, patchy and matted with snow where the land dips. You feel it in the air first, the scent of moisture, of stillness, of something waiting beneath ice. Then you hear it, the faint murmur of water that does not move. The frozen stream lies ahead. You've stopped here before. Once, maybe twice. You can't be sure. These places blur together after time. Not because they lack meaning, but because they echo one another. A fire beside a stream, a saddle resting on a stone, a bowl of broth passed from hand to hand. They could be memories or they could be dreams. In the steppe, little difference. The caravan slows. The lead merchant lifts his hand again, and one by one the animals halt. The carts settle into place. Ropes are loosened. Camels kneel, grumbling in protest. Some flop onto their sides in the snow, their wide bellies flattening patches of white. A few handlers rub their noses gently, muttering soft reassurances. The camels blink, unimpressed. You stretch your arms slowly. Your shoulders crack. Not painfully, just a reminder of use. You lift one foot, then the other, stamping gently to keep the blood flowing. Then, like the others, you begin your small tasks. Someone gathers kindling, not much to be found here. Just wind-dried scrub and twisted bits of root. Another breaks apart a bundle of thin branches brought from the last camp. 2 fires are started, one for heat, the other for boiling tea. You tend the former, arranging the stones in a circle, feeding the flame slowly. The smoke rises straight into the sky. There is no wind now. The stream lies just beyond a shallow rise, frozen over, but not deeply. Its surface is a sheet of pale gray, clouded with fractures, as though even its stillness is weary. A merchant chips at it with the butt of a walking stick, breaking off chunks to melt for water. Each crack echoes faintly, like a whisper spoken in another room. You sit by the fire, legs tucked beneath you, and breathe in its warmth. It's not strong yet, but it's enough. The smell of smoke clings to your robe, to your skin. You don't mind. It feels like safety. Around you, the caravan rests. Not completely. There's always movement, but the kind that softens with stillness. Boots are removed and rubbed clean. Pack animals are fed. Gloves are turned inside out and warmed beside flames. The boy with the braided sash opens his satchel again and pulls out a second strip of meat, offering you another. You shake your head. He shrugs and chews, staring into the snow. A small clay pot is placed over the tea fire. You can smell the herbs steeping. Bitter leaves, dried roots. It will not taste good, but it will warm the body. That is its only purpose. Near the stream, a few traders squat beside the ice, talking softly. You cannot hear the words, but the cadence is easy, worn in. One of them laughs once, short and low, and it makes the others smile. That kind of laughter is rare here, not because of sorrow, but because quiet is easier to carry than joy. A hawk passes overhead again. Or maybe it is another bird. You don't look. You simply listen to the beat of wings and the long silence that follows. The fire crackles. You reach out, slowly, and turn a small branch with the end of a stick. Sparks scatter upward. Across from you, a woman hums to herself. Not a tune, just a pattern of sound that helps her hands move as she patches a torn saddlebag. Her voice is soft, almost part of the wind. You lean back slightly and rest your weight against the side of the cart. Its wood is cold through the fabric, but solid. The weight is comforting. Inside, are the cinnamon baskets, and the cotton, and the bundles of dried tea that came from a port, whose name you've never learned. All of it is traveling, like you, like the others. The tea is ready. It is poured into shallow bowls and passed around, hand to hand, each person taking only one sip before returning the bowl. The warmth spreads from tongue to chest, then fades. Still, it is enough. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to listen. To the fire, to the crunch of boots, to the snort of an animal, to the hush of wind through grass. And beneath it all, to the silence of the stream that waits beneath its glassy skin. You do not think of where you are going. You do not think of where you have been. Only this breath, this fire, this moment. A merchant offers you the last of the tea. You take it, sip, hand it back. Then you rise, stretch once more, and begin checking the straps on the nearest cart. One is loose. You retie it. The others follow your lead. The fire is doused. The teapot is packed away. The camels groan, then rise. The wheels are braced and turned, and the caravan begins again. The afternoon stretches across the steppe like a worn blanket, faded, soft-edged, a little threadbare where the sun presses through the clouds. The land around you hums with an almost imperceptible warmth, not from heat, but from routine, the rhythm of walking, of weight shifting from one foot to the other, of animals breathing steadily, of wood groaning softly beneath bundled goods. Everything has settled into a slow momentum, the kind that does not demand attention, but carries it gently along, like a current. You have resumed your place near the second cart, just behind the boy with the braided sash. He hums less now. His voice, hoarse from the dry air, is quiet, but his steps remain sure. You match them without thinking. Behind you, a mule snorts and stamps a hoof, briefly disturbed by some scent in the wind, then continues on as though nothing had happened. A scent catches your attention too. Not danger, not rot or blood or smoke. Something more familiar. Fermented, tangy, sharp and sour in the nose, but warm beneath. Mare's milk. You glance to your right. One of the older merchants has retrieved a leather pouch from beneath his saddle, wide-bottomed and dark, its neck sealed with thick cord. He uncaps it, takes a sip, wipes his mouth with the back of a gloved hand, and passes it without looking to the rider beside him. No words exchanged, just motion. That pouch will make its way through the caravan now, not quickly, but with purpose. Not everyone will drink, but many will. Even you. By the time it reaches your hands, the leather is cool, damp with condensation. You raise it slowly, careful not to spill. The smell is stronger up close, sharp, but not unpleasant. It carries the memory of grass and warmth, and a time before cold settled into the joints. You take a sip. The liquid is thick, tangy, slightly fizzy. It clings to your tongue and slides down with the weight of something ancient. There is a mild warmth that follows, not the burn of spirits, but a quiet unfolding, like a second fire lit somewhere deep in your chest. You close your eyes, briefly, and breathe through your nose. Then, silently, you pass the pouch forward. This is how stories begin. Not all at once, not loudly, but softly, like embers stirred beneath ash. A man riding near the third cart begins to speak. His voice is gravelly, but slow. He does not raise it. There is no need. The words float out into the shared silence, and the caravan listens, not with ears, but with breath. A story begins to bloom. He tells of a trader who once brought silver bowls, all the way from the lands beyond the Caspian. The bowls were so finely made that they could balance on the point of a finger without tipping. The trader traveled with his daughter, who knew the stars better than any map, and when they were caught in a snowstorm, she found their way back, using only the shape of the clouds and the smell of the wind. Someone behind you chuckles, low, dry. Clouds don't smell, the voice says. Some clouds do, the storyteller replies without pause. Another sip of mare's milk, another pass of the pouch. The story continues. He speaks of wolves that traveled parallel to a caravan for 7 days, and never attacked, only watched. Of a man who dreamed of fire for 9 nights, then woke to find a new spring bubbling from the ground, where his head had rested, of a woman who gave birth to twins beneath the canopy of a cart, while the snow fell in silence. One child cried, the other did not, and the second was said to speak with the dead. The mare's milk warms your belly now, not full, but settled, anchored. You look ahead. The sky is beginning to change. The sun is not yet setting, but its light has begun to shift. Lower, wider, more golden. It casts long shadows that stretch beside the carts like silent companions. The story fades, not ending, just drifting off. Another takes its place. This time the voice comes from a young woman riding bareback on a shaggy brown horse. Her tale is older, harder to follow, not because of its words, but its rhythm. She speaks in a mixture of dialects. Some you understand, others you do not. But you catch the shape of it, a river that ran backward for a day, a boy who disappeared into fog and returned with feathers for hair, a herd of horses that refused to cross a certain plain because it belonged to someone long dead. She drinks last from the pouch and ties it shut again. The leather is now darker from passing hands, the cord tight once more. It disappears into her saddlebag. No applause, no nods, but the silence that follows is fuller, richer. The stories hang in the air like breath, like threads, like thin wisps of smoke that cannot be traced. A light wind rises and brushes against your cheeks. It carries the smell of grass and wool and wood smoke long since burned. A child's voice pipes up behind you, asking about the cloud-smelling girl. The storyteller does not answer. Instead, he begins humming, a tune that sounds familiar and not. The child is quiet again. The steppe rolls on. You feel it all still. The mare's milk, the stories, the long rhythm of movement beneath your feet. They wrap around you, not like burdens, but like layers, like the robes on your back, like the breath in your chest, like the past beneath your footsteps. And up ahead, something new waits beneath the hills. The land begins to slope again, subtly at first, then with more intention. The grasses part more easily now, revealing patches of dark earth and stones the color of rust. The air sharpens too, not with wind, but with presence, as though the silence is about to speak. You follow the caravan over a low rise. Beyond it, the steppe opens into a shallow valley, ringed by outcrops of broken rock that resemble ancient ruins, though no hands shape them. These formations are not uncommon along this part of the road. Sculpted by time and winter winds, they stand like monuments to stories long forgotten. It is here that someone speaks again, low and slow, as though they've been waiting for just this place. Have you ever heard of the trader from Samarkand? The man says, not to anyone in particular, but not to no one either. You don't look toward him, but your ears listen, as do the ears of many in the caravan. Some glance back, others keep walking. No one interrupts. He begins, voice smooth as sand-worn stone. They say he was young when he started, maybe 16, maybe 17, with a pack too large for his back and dreams too big for the Silk Road. He left Samarkand one autumn morning with bolts of cloth dyed blue with crushed lapis and bags of dried plums sweet enough to break the teeth. A breeze passes over the valley. The smell of cold stone rises around you, mixed with dust and distant pine. The man continues. He was clever, they say. Knew when to barter, when to bow, when to lie. He had a tongue like honey, and hands that moved fast, but never looked hurried. For 5 years he traveled, to Khotan, to Nishapur, to Balkh, and beyond. Every merchant from China to the Caspian knew his name, or thought they did. You walk as he speaks, letting the rhythm of your steps merge with his tale. Then one spring, he joined a caravan bound north, toward the lands that sleep beneath frost. He wanted furs, they say, thick white fox, sable, elk hides traded by the tribes beyond the forests. But something changed along the way. The storyteller lets silence stretch for a breath. The wind tugs gently at your sleeve. Some say the trader was caught in a blizzard and left behind. Others claim he found a woman with eyes like dawn and chose a different life. A few whisper that he stole something, a relic, a scroll, a name, and fled into the hills. No one agrees on how he disappeared, only that he did. You pass a cluster of low stones arranged in a rough circle. Not a grave, perhaps, but a place where one might have been. Years later, a traveler came across a yurt in a hidden valley. Inside was a man with a silver comb, a scar above his right eye, and robes lined with blue cloth worn smooth from time. He offered no name. He sold nothing, but he gave the traveler tea so strong it made the world seem new. The man's voice drops, quieter now. And when the traveler returned to Samarkand and described the man, an old merchant in the market dropped his bowl and wept. No one asks if the story is true. It doesn't matter. The tale settles over the caravan like dust, gently, invisibly, fully. It fills the spaces between footsteps. It wraps itself around the clink of harness buckles, the sway of goods in carts, the breath of beasts. Even the air seems to carry it, letting it drift among the dried grasses and broken stones. You glance toward the storyteller, just once. He walks alone. His robe is patched at the elbows. His face is lined by wind and time. But there is something in the set of his shoulders that speaks of long roads and memories hidden beneath names not spoken aloud. Perhaps he knew the traitor. Perhaps he was him. You do not ask. The land begins to rise again. The valley fades behind you. The broken stones give way once more to low hills and open sky. The caravan continues in silence for a time, as though the earth itself is remembering. And in your mind, the image remains, of a blue-robed man in a quiet yurt, offering tea strong enough to remake the world. The hills rise slowly ahead, their shoulders softened by wind and time, dusted in a fading scatter of snow. As the caravan approaches, the clouds begin to shift. Not dark, not threatening, but heavy. They hang low over the ridges, their bellies gray and brushed with light. The wind picks up again, steady and quiet, combing the grass as if searching for something lost long ago. You feel a change in the group. It's not urgency, not fear, something subtler, a tightening of posture, a quieting of even the hums and low-sung tunes, as though something expected has finally drawn near. There's a tent here. It sits just beyond a stone outcrop, shaped like a cradle, tucked into a hollow that offers some shelter from the wind. Unlike the yurts you've seen, round and uniform, wrapped in white felt, this tent is older, darker, stranger. Its sides are stitched from thick animal hide, patchy in places, and the entrance flap is marked with black and red paint in looping patterns that resist easy meaning. It doesn't belong to the caravan. It belongs to the land. You've passed it before, but only once, and you did not stop then. Today, the caravan does. Not all of it. Only a few break off from the column. The carts roll past slowly, wheels grinding softly into the rutted soil. Some glance toward the tent and continue. Others hesitate. A handful dismount, adjust their robes, and step toward the entrance. You are among them, not because you were told, but because your feet move that way, as if drawn. The air near the tent is different. It smells of wood smoke, yes, but also of something deeper. Herbs crushed underfoot, dried berries hung in clusters, fur damp with age. There's a faint tang of something metallic, not blood, exactly, not earth, something in between. A bell chimes inside, not sharply, a dull, hollow sound, as if it were struck by a slow, thoughtful hand. The flap lifts. You duck inside. The tent is low, close. Smoke curls in the center, trailing from a shallow clay bowl resting atop embers. The scent burns your throat gently. Wormwood, maybe. Pine sap. Bits of root. Your eyes water slightly. The shaman sits across from you. Old, though age here is measured in ways more complicated than years. Their robe is made from many things. Strips of wolf and rabbit, crow feathers, long threads of red wool, beads shaped like teeth and berries. Their faces painted with lines that do not align, symbols drawn in black ash and ochre. Their eyes are deep, pale, almost colorless. Not blind, not seeing, something else. You kneel. It is not expected, but it feels correct. Others enter behind you. The boy, with the braided sash, hesitates at the flap, then follows. A woman from the western carts sits silently to your left, fingers wrapped around a small pouch, clutched tight to her chest. No one speaks. The shaman reaches into a carved wooden bowl and tosses something into the fire. It sizzles. The smoke grows heavier, thicker, pressing into your skin like cloth. The tent holds it in, breathless, dense. The shaman hums, a sound without tune, without rhythm. It is not for you, not for anyone. It simply is. Then they begin, not in words, not in a language you understand, but in speech nonetheless. Broken syllables, growled vowels, whispers like wind through reeds. The voice is layered, male and female, old and young, like it travels from far away through many mouths to reach this place. You close your eyes, not because you are tired, but because the smoke demands it. Images come. A deer, standing in frost, eyes the color of fire. A tree with roots tangled around something glowing and wet. A river flowing backward into a cracked bowl, held by hands made of leaves. Then darkness. Then the sound of bells. Then breath. You open your eyes. The shaman has stopped speaking. They watch you, expression unreadable. The pouch you did not know you carried is now in your hands. Inside, a smooth stone, flat, the size of your palm. You do not remember receiving it. You do not remember moving. No one speaks. The woman to your left begins to cry. Not loudly, not with pain. Just a quiet release, like snow melting from the eaves of a roof. The boy stares into the fire. The shaman nods. Once. You rise. The flap opens. You step into the light. The sky is lower now. Clouds press against the hills like wool pressed against the mouth of a jug. The caravan is waiting. The carts stand ready. The camels shuffle, shake their heads, tug at reins. The sound of the wind returns, accompanied by a new silence within yourself. Not emptiness, but room. You walk back toward your place. You do not speak of what you saw, nor do the others. That is not the way. But something has shifted, and the steppe feels it. A cart creaks, a camel snorts, and the road, as always, continues forward. The first flake lands without ceremony. It drifts from a sky the color of cooled ash, caught in a curl of wind, and settles lightly on the back of your glove. You pause to look at it, not out of wonder, but because the stillness demands it. The flake melts in moments, leaving only a darkened dot of damp wool behind. Then another follows, then another. Soon, snow begins to fall. Not fast, not heavy, just steadily. A soft, soundless presence from above. The flakes descend without haste, each one unique and irrelevant. A slow sift of cold light weaving its way down onto the steppe. The caravan takes little notice. This is expected. This is known. In the eastern steppe, snow does not always announce itself with storm or thunder. Sometimes it simply arrives. Gentle, quiet, inevitable. You pull your robe tighter and adjust your scarf. The wool itches your neck, but it is warm. A comfort worth the scratch. The carts continue to move. The wheels begin to squeal more often now, protesting against snow-packed crevices. Drivers lean forward, reins firm in their hands, voices soft as they coax the animals onward. The camels bow their heads against the growing white, their thick lashes catching flecks of snow like spiderwebs catching dew. You walk a little closer to the cart beside you. The boy with the braided sash has pulled his hood low, eyes narrowed to slits against the wind that now carries the snow in little bursts. His steps do not falter. He hums again, quieter this time, a different tune perhaps, or the same one grown older. The steppe, once golden and bare, has begun to fade beneath the snowfall. Patches of brown and yellow are swallowed beneath white. The distant hills blur. Landmarks disappear. The stones that once guided your path grow soft-edged, hidden. Still, you walk. You think of the tent again, of the shaman's eyes, of the hum that echoed through the smoke, the stone in your pouch. You feel its weight now, not heavy, but certain. It presses against your thigh with every step, as though reminding you of something you've not yet learned. Others begin to wrap cloth around their faces, not tightly, just enough to shield lips from the dry bite of winter's breath. Hands are tucked deeper into sleeves. Horses walk slower. The road becomes quieter. Snow dampens sound. Even the hooves are muffled now, their rhythmic percussion softened by a layer of soft powder that thickens slowly but surely beneath them. A cartwheel catches on a rock and is lifted with effort. No one complains. This is just the way of things. The merchant in the wolfskin hat rides a little ahead. His shoulders are hunched, and he mutters occasionally to himself, a prayer perhaps, or a list. You have never heard him raise his voice. But you trust his rhythm. It has kept time with this caravan for longer than many have walked. Overhead, the sky darkens slightly, even though the sun has not set. The clouds thicken. The snow deepens. Still, you press on. There is something soothing in it, the way the world disappears, the way the steppe becomes an endless canvas, the way you vanish into it without fear, as though the snow is not erasing the path, but smoothing it, preparing it, making it ready for those who walk with care. A child bundled in thick layers peers out from a cart window, cheeks red, eyes wide. She reaches out a small hand and catches a flake on her mitten. You see her grin, just for a second. Then the curtain is drawn again. The snow continues. Someone ahead sings, not a melody of joy, but of persistence, a low chant. You've heard it before, though the words change from tongue to tongue. It is the kind of song that holds your feet in motion when your thoughts drift elsewhere. You hum along softly. The boy joins in. The tune spreads, not loudly, but fully, like warmth in a woolen coat, like the steam from morning tea, like breath in cold air. You pass a place that might once have been a settlement, or a graveyard, or nothing at all. A few stones in a circle, a post leaning sideways, half buried. Snow claims it now. The memory of it fades as you pass. The cold settles deeper. But you are not cold. You are carried by the motion, the breath, the sound of fabric shifting, and hooves crunching, and wheels dragging forward. The snow is no longer a surprise. It is part of the journey. It is part of the story. You don't know where this road ends, but for now, you know what it means to walk it. You lower your head, blink snow from your lashes, and continue. The snowfall settles into routine, no longer a new presence, but a steady companion. The world narrows gently, not with harshness, but with a slow embrace. The outlines of things blur. Shapes become softer, sounds more distant. What was once clear and sharp, the horizon, the wheel tracks, the jagged rock ledges, has been softened into memory by the patient layering of white. Even the caravan breathes differently now. The pace has changed. You feel it in your chest, in your calves, in your very breath. Longer strides replaced by shorter, measured steps. Deep inhales taken through cloth to warm the air before it reaches your lungs. The cold doesn't bite exactly, but it waits, it watches. And so the caravan adjusts, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Nothing here is rushed. Nothing here is wasted. You are walking slower now. Everyone is. The carts roll with a muted grind. The animals lower their heads. The men and women beside you move, with focused, quiet, adjusting straps, tightening cloaks, brushing snow from eyes and noses. But no one complains, because this is how it must be. Snow changes the steppe, not just the land, but the rhythm of travel itself. The wind, though never absent, no longer sings. It simply moves, a constant thread along your cheeks and into your sleeves. The kind of wind that does not demand your attention, but will remind you of its presence when you least expect it. You glance at the camels beside you. Their coats are dusted with snow, thin crusts forming in the folds of their necks, along their flanks. One turns its long head toward the sky, mouth ajar, and lets out a low, gargling groan. Not a complaint, just a declaration. I am still here. You whisper back, without words, so am I. Your boots crunch through the snow now, not deep, not yet, but enough to feel the resistance, enough to feel the pull of the land as it gathers itself around your feet. Each step takes a little more effort, asks a little more attention, and still, you move forward. The boy with the braided sash walks beside you, as always, his braid now white with powder, his lips chapped, his hands tucked into the sleeves of his robe. He does not hum today, but his silence is full. You sense he is listening, to the snow, to the earth beneath, to something you cannot yet hear. Ahead, one of the merchants signals. A brief motion, right hand raised, palm forward, and the caravan begins to veer slightly, shifting course. You don't question it. There are many reasons to shift. A hidden ditch, a line of cracked ice, a patch of ground where the snow lies strangely thick. Those who know this land, or once did, guide with instinct more than logic. And so, you follow. As you turn, you notice something you hadn't seen before. A line of dark shapes, just ahead, nestled low to the ground. Not carts, not people, stones, dozens of them, half buried and round, placed in a long curving row. Markers, perhaps, or boundary stones, or the remnants of a camp, long forgotten. Snow collects on them without preference, blurring their outlines into one soft ribbon of gray. The caravan passes them in silence. You feel something stir in your chest. Not fear, not sadness, something quieter. Respect, perhaps, or recognition. These stones have watched many caravans pass. Perhaps they watched the trader from Samarkand. Perhaps they watched you once before. The boy glances at them too, then forward again. The air is colder now. You feel it in your breath. A sharpness in the nose, a thickness in the throat. You reach beneath your robe and touch the stone the shaman gave you. It is still there, still warm. The carts slow further to cross a shallow incline. You help brace the rear wheel of one, placing a wooden wedge beneath it as others push. The wheel grinds, lifts, then turns. You remove the wedge and walk again. No words needed, just action. Snow swirls gently around your knees. The wind begins to hum again, not a song, but a reminder, a presence. It loops around your neck and tickles your ears. The sound of rope tightening, the flap of canvas, the creak of leather straps, the brush of your sleeve against wool. This is the sound of motion in the cold. This is what it means to resume with slower breath. Your legs begin to ache, not painfully, just insistently. A familiar rhythm of fatigue that carries its own kind of comfort. You have walked many days like this. You will walk many more. That is what it means to be part of the caravan, to be part of the thread that ties one place to another, one breath to the next. The hills to your right are barely visible now. Snow veils them like a curtain. Behind you, the trail you've left is already vanishing. Each print softened, each mark blurred. Soon, it will be as though no one passed this way at all. But you are still here, step by step, breath by breath, a part of something larger than yourself, a rhythm that does not belong to you and yet carries you forward. And somewhere ahead, beyond the white, something waits. A fire, a rest, a place to speak again. But not yet, for now you walk, and the snow walks with you. The snow lightens, just barely, not stopping, not yet, but easing, the flakes falling slower now, larger, more delicate, drifting like bits of soft fabric through the air. They no longer sting your cheeks. Instead, they gather peacefully in the folds of your robe, in the curls of wool across your shoulders, in the spaces where breath meets sky. You notice more color now. The whites and grays of the land break briefly with flashes of rust, charcoal, ochre. The sky, still heavy, begins to open in places, long cracks through which pale light filters, painting everything below in silver tones. And then, just as the caravan rounds a small rise, you see them. Birds, not a flock, but two, maybe three, circling with lazy patience above the snow-covered ridgeline. At first you think they are vultures, but their movements are too sharp, too deliberate, too confident. They fly not in erratic circles, but in purposeful spirals, eyes fixed downward, wings broad and certain. The boy with the braided sash speaks at last. "Falcons," he says, not loudly. The word lands like a feather. You raise your eyes and follow the arc of one bird as it glides, smooth and low, before lifting sharply again. Beside you, one of the merchants dismounts and gives a sharp whistle. It's not a sound meant to call, but to signal. The sort of whistle that tells others what they already know. Ahead, two figures separate from the caravan and ride out into the snow-covered slope. They are falconers. Their silhouettes are familiar. Thick-furred robes draped over the flanks of small Mongol ponies, long gloves pulled up to the elbow, a square of leather tied tightly over the shoulder. Each rider cradles one arm with reverence, and upon that arm perches a shape more shadow than solid, a bird cloaked in feathers the color of dark wood and ash, golden eagles. You've seen them before, not often, and never this close, but their presence is unmistakable. Larger than most birds you've known, with curved beaks and eyes that do not blink often. There is a solemnity to them, a pride. They sit alert and unafraid, claws curled tightly over their master's thick leather bracers, heads turning slowly, precisely, as if they are weighing the land with each glance. The falconers halt atop the ridge, allowing the caravan to pass beneath. Then, in a single smooth movement, one of them raises arm high. The eagle spreads its wings. It does not hesitate. It launches into the air with a gust that kicks loose snow into the wind, rising in wide arcs over the path, a shadow among shadows. The other follows soon after. The falcons overhead adjust their pattern, leaving room. These are not territorial dances. These are rituals, old ones, older than borders or names. You watch them rise, then fall, then rise again. And then you notice another shape in the snow, a hare, small, alert, bounding through the whiteness just ahead, unaware or unwilling to stop. The falcons adjust course. One veers left, the other rises higher. They are not in a hurry. They know the ending. The boy beside you whispers something, a word in a tongue you don't know, but the reverence in it needs no translation. The caravan slows to watch. You do not see the catch. The birds vanish behind a low hill. Moments pass. The falconers do not move. Then, slowly, they guide their horses down the slope toward where the hunt has ended. The caravan resumes its pace. No one applauds. No one remarks. It is not performance, not spectacle. It is the way of things, the way it has always been. Men and birds, land and prey, snow and silence. You walk on. As you do, your eyes remain lifted, more than usual, searching the sky, not for falcons or eagles now, though they remain somewhere overhead, but for that sense of shape against stillness, that reminder that above this quiet world, something always watches, that what is small on the ground may be immense from above. The wind shifts slightly. The smell of feathers lingers. You glance down and notice a single feather in the snow beside the cart, long, black, edged with gold at the tip. You reach for it, hesitate, then let it be. Not everything needs to be taken. Some things are meant to remain where the sky dropped them. Ahead, the ridge softens into a long slope. The snow continues, gentler now, as if tired, and high above, a single falcon circles once more, unhurried before disappearing behind the clouds. The light changes slowly. First it deepens, the snow turning from white to blue, from blue to gray, the sky tinting with tones so soft they could almost be mistaken for shadow. Then, as the sun slips beyond the horizon behind you, a different kind of light begins to rise. Pale, patient, cold. Moonlight. It begins as a suggestion, a faint shimmer across the snow-packed ridges, and then gradually, delicately, it grows. Silver pouring upward into a sky now streaked with charcoal wisps. The steppe does not resist the dark. It accepts it, folding itself into it like a robe, pulled tighter against the chest. The land becomes quieter still, the sound of footsteps dampened by the dusk. The wheel creaks lower, the camel's breath heavier. And there ahead they appear, the burial mounds. They rise from the snow not as monuments, but as memories, round-topped and still. low to the ground, carefully arranged, and ancient beyond reckoning. Some are no higher than your waist, others shoulder height, their outlines softened by snow and wind. Dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, stretching in irregular patterns across the slope. No markers, no inscriptions, only stone. Stone piled upon stone, set in circles and ovals, sometimes in lines that follow the slope of the land. Between them grow tufts of brittle grass, bowed low under frost. The caravan slows, unspoken, as it passes into the outer edge of this sacred space. No one says a word. Even the camels seem quieter, their footfalls muffled and their breathing shallow. A few handlers bow their heads as they walk. A young girl riding in the rear cart lights a sprig of dried juniper and holds it just inside the cloth flap of her yurt, letting the smoke trail upward into the night. This is not a place of fear. It is a place of knowing. The dead here are not disturbed. They are not mourned aloud. They are acknowledged. With every boot step, every glance, every breath held a little longer. You walk between two mounds. The space between them is narrow. You feel it like a weight at your sides, not threatening, but watchful. Your hand moves toward your pouch, toward the smooth stone the shaman gave you. You don't touch it, but you remember it. The boy beside you walks more slowly now. His eyes scan the snow, careful not to step on the smallest stones. His braid has come out loose, a few strands of dark hair sticking to his cheek, frozen by breath and sweat. He does not fix it. He only walks. In the distance, someone begins to hum, a low, wavering tone that weaves between notes without ever settling on a melody. Others join in, one by one, no leader, no harmony. The sound drifts like fog, like smoke, like the kind of song the wind might sing if it remembered how to grieve. The moon climbs higher. It is nearly full now, casting long shadows that stretch across the mounds, giving them new shapes, new depth. What was once a lump of stone now looks like a sleeping figure. What was once a dip in the snow now looks like an opening, but nothing moves. And yet, the feeling grows, not fear, reverence, as though something ancient stirs just beneath the snow, not waking, but listening. You pass one mound larger than the rest, rimmed with standing stones, worn smooth by wind and age. A falcon feather rests at its center, half buried, unmoved by breeze or beast. You wonder who placed it there, or if it landed itself. The wind picks up again, only slightly, whispering between the stones. A merchant removes his hat and holds it against his chest. A child presses her face into her mother's shoulder. One cart creaks loudly, too loudly, and is quickly steadied by 3 sets of hands. No one scolds, no one reacts. The mounds ask for stillness, and stillness is given. Your breath clouds before you. It joins the smoke, the wind, the hush. You feel the moon now not only above you, but within you, a coolness behind your eyes, a stillness in your chest. You do not speak. You do not need to. When the last of the mounds fades behind you, and the land opens again, there is no change in step, no song of release, no sudden return to rhythm. Only movement, only breath, only the snow beneath your feet, and the moonlight that follows without question. The burial mounds fade into distance, their shapes melting into the contours of the snowy steppe. The moon still climbs, slow and certain, casting the land in its quiet glow. Every shadow feels a little longer now, every sound a little more distant. But the caravan, steady as ever, continues on, until a sound splits the stillness, not loud, not sharp, but unmistakable, a pop, then a dragging grind. You stop mid-step and turn. Others do the same. Eyes shift back. Someone curses under their breath. Not in anger, but in recognition. A wheel has broken. Third cart from the front. Not shattered, that would be chaos, but fractured. One of the spokes has snapped clean through, and the rim now sags with the weight of the load, tilting the whole frame. The cart groans as if embarrassed. The lead camel turns its head slightly, as though insulted by the inconvenience. No one panics. No one hurries. But movement changes. The caravan begins to slow. then stops. One by one, those walking behind adjust their positions. Carts are pulled aside, ropes are slackened, animals are calmed with soft touches and low words. The air fills with the sounds of subtle readiness. Not alarm, not complaint, but an ancient understanding shared across generations. When the wheel breaks, all wait. You step off the path and move toward the damaged cart. Others have already gathered. The merchant who owns it stands with arms folded, his mouth drawn into a firm line. His helper, a man no older than 20, kneels beside the wheel, examining the damage. You can see it from where you stand. The spoke has snapped at the base, clean and cold. A result of pressure, of age, of cold, of time. A falconer dismounts and kneels to assist. A strip of rawhide is unrolled. A hammer is fetched. Another man arrives with a spare piece of wood, not identical, but close enough. There is no talk of abandoning the cart, no blame, only the work. You do not crowd, but you do not walk away either. This is the rule of the road. If one waits, all wait. If one stops, all stop. Nearby, a fire is lit. Small, discreet, fed with what dry fuel can be found. Not for cooking, not for comfort, just warmth. A place to gather while the repairs are made. The boy with the braid sits beside it, his hands stretched forward. He does not speak. You sit beside him. The fire snaps once. Sparks rise like fireflies. Others gather too, some wrapped in their cloaks, some still brushing snow from their sleeves. A woman passes around a small pouch of dried cheese. The pieces are hard, salt white, bitter on the tongue, but good for the belly. You chew slowly. The merchants around the fire begin to murmur, not loudly, just stories shared to fill the pause. Someone recalls a wheel that cracked under a salt load near Lake Balkash and took a full day to mend. Another speaks of a trader who replaced a broken axle with a sled runner and still made it to the market on time. You listen, but your eyes drift toward the cart. The wheel has been removed. The hub is exposed now, bare and cold. The replacement spoke is being shaped, shaved with a knife worn smooth from use. The falconer does most of the work. His fingers are calloused, movements slow, but precise. You watch him wedge the wood into place, tapping gently, checking angles, then binding it tight with leather softened over the fire. The cart groans again, this time in thanks. The moon watches, and all around, snow continues to fall. Light, constant, delicate. It gathers in the hollows of boots, the folds of sleeves, the seams of ropes. It rests on the backs of the animals, which stand calm and patient, chewing slowly, steam rising from their flanks. A man begins to sing, quietly, a lullaby more than a song, a tune from the eastern mountains, about a horse that would not lie down, and a child who never blinked. The words are simple, repeated often. A woman joins in, her voice soft and sure. No one claps. No one needs to. The song is not performance. It is presence. Then the hammering stops. The new spoke is in place. The cart is lifted by 6 hands and eased forward. The wheel turns once, then again. It holds. The merchant nods. No words are spoken, but everyone knows what this means. The fire is doused with snow. Boots are retightened. Ropes are pulled firm. The animals shift in their traces. Breath clouds in the moonlight. And slowly, not suddenly, the caravan begins to move again. Not because someone commanded it, but because it is time. You rise with the others and fall into step. The boy follows without a word. His braid swings gently behind him, and behind you, in the snow, the tracks begin again, deep, wide, and sure. The road continues, and all who walk it breathe in time. The wind rises again as the caravan winds its way into the next stretch of open steppe, not harsh but colder now, and less forgiving. It pushes against the sides of the carts, sneaks beneath the folds of your robe, whispers at your ears with long, searching fingers. The snow falls less heavily, but But the chill in the air tells you that night has settled in fully, and that something ancient is stirring just beyond the horizon. You've walked long enough to know the feeling, the kind of silence that is not empty, but alert, the kind that seems to lean forward, listening. The animals feel it too. The camels are restless. They shift more often. One lets out a low, vibrating groan that lasts too long. A horse near the rear of the line begins to toss its head and snort, hooves stamping in quick bursts, breath steaming violently from flared nostrils. Its rider leans forward, whispering something, trying to calm it. But the horse knows. And so do you. Wolves. Not seen, not heard, not yet, but present, as surely as the moon above you. Their scent is on the wind, that mix of wildness and hunger and fur, the kind of scent that makes the skin between your shoulders tighten, the kind that has followed caravans for generations. You tighten the strap on your shoulder, not that it would protect you, not that you're in danger, not directly. Wolves don't attack moving caravans without cause. But they come close. They watch. They test. And sometimes, when the wind is just right and the youngest horse limps, they try. Someone ahead whistles. Short. Clipped. A signal. Two men riding near the center of the caravan break away and begin to ride wide loops around the outer line, keeping just beyond the carts. Their eyes scan the darkness. They carry bows, but they do not raise them. Not yet. You hear the first howl. It's distant, echoing. The sound floats across the snow like breath made of bone, long, rising, mournful. Not a warning, not a challenge, just a reminder. We are here. The boy with the braided sash draws closer to you, his steps a little quicker. You glance at him, he says, nothing, but his eyes are searching the shadows now. Another howl answers the first, then a third. The caravan's pace doesn't change, but the atmosphere thickens, tightens, like a drum skin pulled taut. No one speaks, no one sings, and then, slowly, softly, someone begins. A voice from the front, a woman, her pitch low and steady, barely more than breath. A song you don't know, in a language you almost recognize. A chant, maybe, old, rhythmic, repetitive. Another voice joins her, then another. You recognize the pattern. A singing chain. It is not for beauty. It is not even for courage. It is for calm. A way to keep the horses steady, to keep the camels moving, to remind each person, even the smallest, that fear is manageable when it moves in rhythm. You join in without thinking. A hum first, then a single word, passed along like a secret. You do not know what it means. You don't need to. It's the melody that matters, the repetition, the offering of your voice into the cold. The wolves do not answer, or if they do, the wind swallows it. Still, you feel them, somewhere to the right, just beyond the edge of moonlight, just beyond the trees that appear now like dark ribs along the hills. You think you see a shape, a blur of gray against gray, but then it's gone. The song continues. The animals settle. The boy beside you is humming now too, his voice soft and cracked, but steady. He's not looking for the wolves anymore. He's walking forward, breathing in time with the song, boots crunching with each step like a drumbeat in the snow. The falconers ride wider arcs now. Their birds are hooded, resting, unused to this kind of watch. Bows remain across saddles. Knives stay in belts. The thread is known, but it does not rise, because the song holds, because the movement never breaks, because the caravan walks with breath and will and memory. You remember another night, years ago, when wolves came closer, when a sheep was taken from a side cart, when a horse was found trembling, torn, bleeding. You remember the silence that followed, heavier than mourning, the unspoken decision to keep walking. You remember the song then, too. Different words, same tone. You blink. Snow falls into your lashes. You don't brush it away. Ahead, the trees thin. The hill opens. The moon brightens. And the howling stops. No alarm is given. No signal is made. But you feel the release, the loosening. The wolves have gone. Not far, but far enough. The song fades, one voice at a time, like embers cooling in a bowl, and once again, the only sound is the steady rhythm of snow and breath and cartwheels creaking forward. The boy exhales deeply. You do too. You do not speak. There is no need. Because when the wolves are near, you sing. And when they are gone, you walk. The wind begins to shift again. Not a storm, not a warning, just a turning, a long breath exhaled from the spine of the land. The snow has lessened, now drifting more than falling, and the tracks of the caravan stretch behind you in long, fragile lines, already fading. You glance back once, catching sight of your own footsteps barely clinging to shape. Soon they'll be gone. The caravan continues in silence, and then, somewhere near the middle, a voice speaks, not loudly, not commanding, just a simple statement in a calm, graveled tone. We're close. You recognize the voice. A merchant named Timur, broad-shouldered, heavy-footed, with a face like weathered bark and hands that always seem stained with ink. He walks with a slight limp and favors his left leg, but he carries more knowledge of the road than anyone else you've met, not because he reads maps, but because he carries them inside him. Timur steps off the track and moves toward the center fire cart, rummaging beneath the canvas flap for something wrapped in oilcloth. When he returns to the group walking nearest him, he kneels beside the rear wheel of a cart, brushes snow aside with his palm, and begins to speak. No commands, no orders, just storytelling. It should be here, he says softly, and draws a line in the snow with his finger. We're 3 ridgelines past the burial mounds. The earth flattens soon, then curves north around a frozen stream. We follow it for 3 bends, then turn toward a cleft in the hills. His finger moves, slow, precise. The wind will shift. You'll smell cedar bark. That's how you know we're near the old outpost. You and a few others step closer, not to question, but to observe. Timur never consults paper. He carries everything inside his head. He has crossed these routes more times than the number of winters you've seen, and each journey, each detail, is a thread in the tapestry he weaves. He continues drawing. Beyond the cleft is a line of rocks, stacked flat, like books left in the snow. Just past them, we'll see the well, covered now, likely, frozen, but it's still there. You nod. Others do too. No one needs to speak their trust aloud. Timur presses a final mark into the snow, a circle with 4 short lines crossing it like the petals of a flower. That's where we'll camp, he says, leaning back. Not tonight, but soon. Then he wipes the map away with a slow sweep of his hand, brushing snow over the lines, hiding the memory again. You glance at him. How do you remember it all? He shrugs. My father walked these roads, and his father before him. They said the land was a body. You just have to learn where the veins run. You walk beside him as the caravan moves again. He speaks more as you walk, not to boast, but to fill the air with something other than cold. There's a stone near the bend in the frozen stream, he murmurs, flat as a table. They say a caravan once sat down and held council there, divided their route, split the goods, split the loyalties. No one knows what became of them after that. You listen. His words flow like ink. There's a spot where the wind always smells of rain, even in winter. No rain has fallen there in years, but it remembers. The others walk silently, listening. Timur's voice becomes the pulse of the group now, low, slow, continuous. A lullaby of navigation, a poem of survival. You think of all the maps you've seen in market stalls. Curling parchment, charcoal outlines, thick lines drawn with uncertain fingers. You remember how confusing they were, how they seemed to lie. But Timur's map is the kind you carry in your chest, a memory drawn with breath and snow, and the shape of walking. You look around, the trees have thinned again, the land is soft beneath snow, gently rising and falling like the chest of something asleep. You see no landmarks, No signs. But Temur walks on, certain as the moon. The boy with the braid walks just behind you, watching Temur's feet. His hands are wrapped in his sleeves again, but his eyes are clear, focused. He is learning too, and that is how the map is passed on. Not in ink, not in parchment, but in footfalls, in shared stories, in the warmth of a voice cutting through the frost. You walk on. Temur begins another memory, this one about a village that no longer exists, washed away in a spring melt, 15 winters ago. Only the smell of almond trees remains, he says. Only the way the snow dips slightly in a certain place. The wind swirls gently around your legs, and for a moment you think you catch a trace of almonds on the air. You do not ask. You simply keep walking, because the map is already beneath your feet. The path bends almost imperceptibly, guided more by instinct than visible markers. The air feels different now, not warmer, not softer, but edged with familiarity. You feel it in your chest before you see it, a sense of nearing something known, something built, something human. Temur says nothing more. He only gestures, once, to the left, and then, as you crest the shallow rise that curves away from the wind, you see it, the outpost, half buried in snow, faded, but real. It is not a fortress, not a settlement, just a small collection of low, square structures pressed close to a rocky ridge. Mud walls, wind-worn and pitted, roofs flattened under the weight of snow. A fence, once tall, now collapsed in places, its poles tilted like old teeth. No smoke rises from the chimneys, no torches burn in the dusk, but it stands, and in a place like this, that is enough. The caravan halts. Slowly, carefully, carts are drawn into the clearing between the buildings. A few camels grunt, stretching stiff limbs. The horses shake themselves out, tails flicking snow. One rider dismounts and kneels to touch the ground, not reverently, but with the quiet habit of someone returning to a familiar station. You step off the path and make your way to the edge of the nearest structure. A storage hall, maybe. The doors hang loosely, cracked in the middle. You brush snow from the threshold and push gently. The wood creaks, but yields. Inside is darkness, dust, and silence. A few broken crates, a stack of woven mats, damp with years. No sign of fire, no footprints. It's been empty for a while, but it still stands. Others explore. A woman from the rear carts finds a roofed lean-to with space enough for sleeping. Another man tests the walls of a narrow animal shelter, pronouncing it sound enough for goats, if we had any. You return to the center of the clearing. Fires are being lit now. Small ones, cautious. Circles of heat forming among the stones. Snow is cleared away with wooden shovels. Packs are opened. Blankets are shared. The caravan begins to settle, like a hand unclenching after a long, cold grip. You sit near one of the fires, not close, just close enough to feel its presence. The boy with the braid sits beside you, his back resting against a wall. He stares into the flames, blinking slowly. His braid has come undone again. He doesn't seem to mind. One of the falconers brings dried meat from a waxed pouch, strips of horse, hard and dark. You chew slowly. The taste is dense, metallic, familiar. You drink water warmed in a cracked ceramic bowl. It tastes of clay and old leaves, but it softens your throat. There is little talk, only the rustle of cloth, the creak of wood, the occasional hiss of snow melting against stone. Temur speaks once, pointing toward a far wall. That one was a way station, he says. Used to be a ledger hanging inside. Traders would mark their passage, sometimes just initials, sometimes a full story. You nod. I checked it once, he continues. Years ago. Found my uncle's mark. You do not ask what it looked like. You don't need to. You sit in silence for a while. The moon rises higher, casting the outpost in pale silver. Its walls, though broken, seem stronger beneath its light. The snow glows softly across the ground, turning boot prints into brief rivers of shadow. A woman hums near the fire. Her voice is low, wordless. The sound curls through the air like smoke, wrapping around your shoulders. Someone else begins sorting dried herbs by lamplight. The scent of juniper and nettle rises faintly. It smells like winter, like tea, like memory. You look around. The outpost is quiet. No laughter, no music. But there is peace. A kind of peace that only comes after great movement, after endurance, after silence held too long now finds room to settle. You glance up. One of the buildings has a roof that's half collapsed. Snow pours through it like sand in a broken hourglass. And yet, inside, someone is already rolling out a mat, making a place for rest. It's enough. You close your eyes for a moment and breathe deep. The scent of wood smoke and wool, the feel of warmth near your knees, the rhythm of people moving slowly around you, not with haste, not with tension, but with care. This is the border, not of nations, but of movement and stillness, of travel and pause, a place between. Tomorrow you will move again, but tonight you are here, and the outpost waits with you. The outpost never truly sleeps. Even as the fires burn low and voices fade to murmurs, there is motion, soft, constant, purposeful, a cartwheel being inspected in the flicker of lamplight, cloth repacked to keep the snow off cured goods, a child whispering a lullaby to herself as her mother braids her hair beside the fire. These movements are quiet, like the shifting of breath in a sleeping body, but they are there, and within them a kind of trade begins, not of silver and coins, but of presence, of gesture, of word, of warmth passed hand to hand. Bartering in the caravan rarely waits for cities. It happens here, in places like this, where the snow is thick and the walls sag and the only currency that matters is what you've carried far enough to value. You sit beside one of the low fires, your hands wrapped around a shallow wooden bowl filled with something hot and brothy, goat bone, carrot, perhaps dried cabbage. The taste is thin, but honest. The warmth spreads across your chest like a wool blanket. You sip slowly. Across the fire, a woman lays out a cloth on the ground. Neat, square, the edges held down with small river stones. On the cloth, she places 6 items: a strip of dyed silk, a tin comb, a leather flask with faded inkwork, 3 bundles of crushed herbs tied with blue thread, a pair of wooden earrings shaped like crescent moons, and a pouch of powdered dye. She says nothing. People gather without being called. You move closer, watching. Not because you intend to trade, not yet, but because this is part of the road too. The small rituals, the quiet exchange, the acknowledgement that some things hold meaning beyond their weight. An old man kneels beside the cloth and places down 2 lengths of black rope, toughened, coiled, neatly oiled. He gestures to the leather flask. The woman examines the ropes, lifts one, feels the braid, tests the knot at its end. She nods once. The trade is made. No coin changes hands. No oath is spoken. Just an understanding. Bartering on the steppe is not about fairness. It's about need. About value measured by context. What is useless in the city might be salvation in the snow. What one person carries too long, another may lift gladly. The boy with the braid, now untied entirely, his hair loose around his shoulders, approaches the cloth. He kneels without a word, pulls from his pouch a strip of fine wool dyed deep blue. It's been folded carefully, preserved. He places it down and looks toward the earrings. The woman considers. She runs her thumb along the edge of the wool, feels its weave, checks for moth holes or weakness. She nods. The boy takes the earrings, careful not to touch her hand, and steps back. He turns them over in his palm for a moment, before tucking them into his satchel. You wonder who they are for. Another man appears from one of the buildings, a long black case under his arm. He unrolls it to reveal metal tools, simple, rough, but strong. He speaks softly, offering to sharpen blades, mend hinges, shape bone for arrowheads. A queue begins to form. Someone produces a rusted knife, another a bent clasp. A falconer hands him a cracked buckle from her bird's harness. The man accepts each item with the same gravity. He lays them beside the fire and begins to work. You reach into your own pouch and feel for the smooth stone the shaman gave you. You do not offer it. It is not for barter. But still, you hold it for a while, just to remember. Elsewhere, a young woman unwraps 3 tiny jars filled with ground spice. Pale yellow, deep red, rich green. She trades a pinch of each for a promise. When they reach the next city, she will receive thread in return. Not now. Later. When later comes. Bartering here is not just exchange. It is trust. It is continuity. It is proof that the road has more than hardship, that it also carries memory and hope and favor that returns in time. Tamer appears at the edge of the circle and lowers himself beside you with a long breath. He watches the trades unfold. He does not speak. After a while, he reaches into the folds of his coat and pulls out a small ivory token, worn smooth by fingers, etched with tiny markings on one side. Not letters, not numbers. Perhaps a map, perhaps a story. He looks at it for a while, then places it in your palm. You hesitate. "What is it?" you ask. He shrugs. "Something I carried too long." You turn it over. Feel its weight. It is light, but not empty. You nod. The fire crackles. Someone laughs. Not loudly, not with mirth, but with that exhale of recognition that follows when something rare is accepted. A goat somewhere brays softly, pulling at a length of rope. Snow falls more slowly now, drifting like dust over the sleeping roofs of the outpost. The trades continue, as they always do. Not just of goods, but of glances, of promises, of shared silence. And beneath the stars, at the edge of nowhere, everything you need is here. The night deepens. Snow drifts in thin sheets along the walls of the outpost, swept into gentle piles by a breeze too tired to sting. The fires burn lower now, their glow a faint pulse against the dimming edges of the world, and through this hush, through this fabric of motionless breath and slow, careful thought, comes a sound you have not heard in days, a voice you don't understand, not just unfamiliar, foreign. It comes from one of the outpost shelters, the furthest one, where the roof has held better than most. A flicker of firelight glows through its single cracked window. Inside, figures shift, not many, 2, perhaps 3, and from within there is laughter, low, rich, warm. You drift closer without intending to, not alone. Others are moving that way too, as if drawn by the tone rather than the meaning. Laughter here is rare, and rarer still when shared without context. You step through the doorway, ducking beneath the splintered lintel, and enter. The warmth hits first, real warmth, thick with steam. Someone has hung a pot over the fire, and from it rises the scent of broth, root vegetables, wild onion, and something else, foreign spice, sharp and citrusy. The air is damp, fragrant, comforting. The man tending the pot is tall, round-faced, with a beard the color of ash, and hands that move with practiced ease. He stirs with a carved wooden ladle, and speaks as he does, in a language that lilts and flows, filled with double consonants and open vowels. His tone is welcoming, even if the words fall like rain on stone. Another man, older, nods beside him, chuckling in response. A third sits cross-legged on a folded mat, sipping from a lacquered bowl, head bowed in satisfaction. You do not know their names. You do not know where they joined the caravan, but you've seen them walking, carrying little, speaking less. The tall man sees you and gestures with a flick of the ladle, his face creased in an unmistakable smile. You hesitate. He beckons again, and from the wall behind him, he takes a small wooden bowl and dips it into the pot. With both hands, he offers it to you, murmuring something, a phrase that sounds rehearsed, like a line learned long ago and stored for moments just like this. You take the bowl. It warms your palms instantly. The scent is unfamiliar. Pepper, maybe, or some kind of dried citrus rind. You lift it to your lips. The broth is hot, thick with small grains and softened root. It tastes of places you've never been, of rivers you've never crossed, of markets where none of the signs are written in your hand. It is simple, and it is perfect. You nod, unsure what to say. The man taps his chest once, smiles again, and returns to stirring. Another voice murmurs to him from the far corner. An older woman, half shrouded in the shadows. Her accent is different again, sharper. She speaks the common tongue poorly, but when she gestures to you, you understand the meaning clearly. Eat. Be warm. Others begin to enter, slowly, respectfully. No one crowds, but each is handed a bowl. Each offers a nod. Each sits. Timur arrives last. He crouches beside you, exhales, and accepts a bowl with a soft grunt of approval. Uzbek, he says, after a few sips. Or maybe Kyrgyz. Doesn't matter. You smile faintly. Soup speaks its own language. He chuckles. Better than most traders. Around the fire, voices begin to rise. Quiet conversation in half-understood tongues. A falconer shares a phrase she learned from a caravan months ago, trying it out in the tall man's language. He laughs, corrects her gently, then repeats the phrase until she says it right. They both laugh then, and she repeats it again, this time more confidently. Across the room, a young boy from the southern carts mimics the sound of the man's accent, exaggerating it into a joke. The room chuckles. Even the older woman smiles, lifting her bowl in approval. The boy flushes and bows in mock apology. The fire pops, steam rises, and you realize the caravan speaks more languages than you knew. They are languages of trade, of story, of firelight and silence and the tilt of a bowl. They are not written, they are not taught in books. They are exchanged in moments like this, offered without asking, received without shame. Your soup is half gone now. The warmth has spread to your arms, your shoulders, the crown of your head. You feel your spine unwind, your knees soften, your chest loosen. Someone passes around thin strips of dried fruit. Another shares salt-cured beans. The older man in the corner begins to sing. A tune so slow it seems to crawl across the firelight. No one joins him, but everyone listens. And when the song ends, the silence afterward is full, not empty. You sit there for a long while, the bowl resting in your lap, the language of the caravan unfolding around you like smoke. You don't know every word, but you understand everything. Dawn does not rise with brilliance on the steppe. It unfolds, pale, diffused, uncertain, a soft wash of light spreading across the snow, revealing more silence than color. The sky remains gray, the wind lightens but does not vanish, and from within the half-frozen walls of the outpost, the caravan begins to stir once more. Not all at once, not loudly, but steadily. A cough from near the fire pit, the shuffle of boots on frozen earth, the rustle of cloth as someone rewraps their scarf. The clink of wood bowls, being stacked, washed with melted snow, and tucked back into packs. These are not preparations for adventure, but for return, for the second half of a journey already begun. You rise slowly, your joints reluctant but no longer aching. The warmth of last night's soup lingers in your chest, and your breath comes more easily. Around you others are beginning to pack, not hurriedly, but with method. Blankets are folded, tents pulled down and shaken. Ropes are recoiled with hands that know their shape without looking. Timur passes you, nods, and points toward the eastern path. That way leads to the pass, he says softly. But we've done what we came to do. Now it's west. We follow our own tracks, or what's left of them. You nod. The idea of return carries no drama here. No celebration, no sigh of relief. Just direction, just movement. The same as yesterday and the day before. You glance once more at the outpost. The snow has gathered in its corners again. The tracks of last night's trading are nearly gone. A few embers still glow beneath the central fire, but they are fading. The border has held you gently, but it is not meant for staying. You shoulder your pack. The boy with the braid, rebraided now, with a twist of thread knotted at the base, appears beside you. He looks older this morning, or maybe it's just the light. His satchel is fuller than before. He carries it like it's always been his. Ready? You ask. He shrugs. There's still more road. A fair answer. The caravan begins to move again, this time slower. Not from fatigue, but from gravity. The kind of slowness that comes from turning inward. A journey out is filled with anticipation. A journey back is filled with thought. The wheels turn the same, but the silence is different. The wind shifts behind you now, nudging at your back instead of your face. Timur walks ahead, humming something under his breath, a different tune from the one sung in the soup house, but just as soft. A few carts creak louder than they should. One horse stumbles briefly, then recovers. The camels groan, but follow. You fall into rhythm. The boy beside you begins to speak, not loudly, not constantly, but with the slow, irregular curiosity of someone testing ideas aloud. He asks how far the road runs, whether birds ever fly all the way across the steppe, why the snow makes no sound when it falls. You answer when you can, and when you can't, you answer anyway, because sometimes silence is a kind of answer too. The land looks different in reverse. The burial mounds come quicker than expected. The trees near the river bend are shorter than you remembered. The stone shaped like a sleeping lion seems smaller now. But this is always the way of returning. It changes nothing, and it changes everything. Someone laughs behind you. Someone else begins to sing again. Not the lullaby from the wolf's night, but a work song, slow and rhythmic, meant to ease the steps between 1 mile and the next. It spreads gradually. A few join in, then more. You do not sing, but you walk to its beat. The sun is higher now, though still filtered by gray. The air tastes of dry snow and cedar bark. The wind picks up grains of frost and carries them ahead of the caravan like scouts. Your boots find the old path without effort. The road remembers. You pass the place where the wheel broke. The snow has filled most of the ruts, but the faint impressions remain. A dip here, a turn there. You smile. The cart that broke still follows the line, its new spoke holding firm, its merchant no longer watching it with suspicion. Midway through the morning, you pause briefly near the crest of a hill. The caravan fans out behind you, dots of movement across a wide, breathing plain. And ahead, in the softest part of the light, you see the horizon bending homeward. It is not a destination, it is a direction, and that is enough. You step forward again. The road receives you. The day passes like breath through cloth, slow, soft, filtered by motion and memory. The caravan does not rush. It glides. Each cart creaks with familiar rhythm now, not struggling under new weight, but rocking with the practiced grace of something returning to its cradle. The horses lean into the wind with the same stoic patience as the riders, and the camels, ever the steady elders of this journey, blink slowly under the pale sun, their steps unhurried and sure. You lose track of time, not because it vanishes, but because it smooths itself into the folds of each moment, every step, every gust of air, every rustle of cloth, each blend into the next without edges. The boy beside you hums under his breath, a tune he picked up 2 nights ago. He doesn't hum for entertainment or attention. It's just part of walking now, a layer of the silence. The path curves through open space. The snow has thinned here, not vanished, but lighter, scattered like memory. Beneath it, you glimpse patches of dull grass, bent and sleeping. The steppe exhales, and you with it. No cities wait at the end of this road, no towers, no gates, just more of what you've already seen, hills that roll, rivers that forget their names, trees that do not mark seasons with color, but with stillness. You remember the first day you joined the caravan, the tension of the unknown, the weight of your pack, the endless sky that made you feel too small to matter. Now, you look up, and it welcomes you. The sky is not blue, it is not gray, it is not anything you can describe. It is simply present, above and around, watching and listening without judgment. It has seen more than you ever will, and still, it stretches on. You let yourself drift, not off the path, but within it. Your steps no longer belong to you alone. They are shared with the hundreds before you. Each rut in the snow echoes other feet, other carts, other voices. The road is never empty, even when the caravan rests, even when the fire dies, even when you are alone with only the wind. You begin to dream before sleep comes. Not fully, not deeply, but you feel it, the soft pull of inward turning, of thoughts curling into themselves like smoke from a spent fire. You dream of felt yurts beneath open sky, of the creak of harnesses at dawn, of soup that speaks in spices you've never named, of a stone that still holds a shaman's warmth, of wolves who watch but do not bite, of the border that welcomed you in silence, then let you go without a word. You dream of things that were not yours, but which now live somewhere behind your ribs, stitched into the breath that leaves your mouth each time you walk. Someone laughs ahead, not loudly, not sharply, just the sound of being carried gently through the world. You feel your eyelids grow heavy though you are still walking. The line between step and sleep thins. The rhythm of the caravan becomes the rhythm of your body. And then, at some point, you do not know when, you stop needing to know where you are. You are simply here, under the sky, among the grass, wrapped in the silence that speaks louder than any map or prayer or name. You will not remember every step, but you will remember the dream of movement without end, of stillness in motion, of being part of something vast and soft and old. The caravan continues, the world turns, and you sleep, and you dream, and the sky holds you, endlessly.